Hey everyone, welcome to Coyote Bushcraft. Today I want to talk to you all about another trap. So if you watch my original trapping video, the first video I ever put out, it was on the figure 4 deadfall trap. And the trap I'm going to be showing you today is very similar. And it is a variation of a deadfall trap, which deadfall refers to two surfaces coming together and basically squashing the animal, whether that be rocks or logs. Today I'm probably going to be using mainly rocks because there's a lot of good rocks in this area. That being said, this one's called the Paiute Deadfall. And so I typically go with the figure 4, which is what I did in my original trapping video, and is an extremely effective trap. And the reason I prefer that trap is simply based on the fact that it's extremely quick and easy to construct a whole lot of them and put them out. The Paiute Deadfall, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult to construct, but only slightly more difficult. It's still a really pretty quick and easy trap to set up. And one benefit though of the Paiute Deadfall is I would say it is slightly more effective than the figure 4 Deadfall. It's a little bit more of a hair trigger, so it can get you more game in the end if you have the patience to make a whole lot of them. So yeah, today I want to kind of take you through the whole trapping process. I have already a bunch of Paiute Deadfalls constructed from previous expeditions and ventures I've had. So I won't be constructing it, but I'll tell you how I construct it. I'll show you how to set it up, and then hopefully I'll end up catching something and we can cook that up and have another 100% wild meal just like in the last video. So I want to take you from the beginning to the very end of the process here today. So yeah, with no further ado, I'll go ahead and show you all how to construct and set up a Paiute Deadfall. Okay, so here's an example of a Paiute Deadfall all set up, and you can see its resemblance to the figure 4. It's very similar. One thing you might notice right off the bat that's different is this piece of cordage that goes from right here to right here, and then the bait stick is just a very small little twig that doesn't just stop right here and suspended in the air. It actually goes all the way and actually connects in a small groove here on the back of the rock. So those are the main differences between the Paiute Deadfall and the figure 4. And here in just a second I'll go ahead and go over each individual component with you in more detail. But first I just want to show you the trap in action and show you how incredibly sensitive this trap is. So right here, right where the stick is pressed up against the rock, that's where I have my bait, and in this case I just use a very small dab of peanut butter. You don't need any more than just a tiny little dab. And so the animal comes crawling in, smells that peanut butter, just barely pushes on that, and then boom, it's a very hair trigger. And yeah, that's the Paiute Deadfall, and we'll go ahead and go over each individual component now. Alright, so it just consists of a few different components, 3 sticks, a toggle, and then your flat rock on top and your flat rock on the bottom. And just like the figure 4 Deadfall, it's really crucial that both those rocks are flat, so it's a nice flush connection with not a lot of those grooves and whatnot in there. So the first thing I want to go over to you about is the post stick, and so this is very simple. All we have here is a flat head cut here on the top, and then about 1/3 of the way up we have just a little area right here that's been flattened out, and that's all it is. And the length of this particular one is about hang loose length, and that can vary depending on what you're going for. In this case I think I'm mainly going to be going for, again, rodents and maybe something all the way up to the size of a squirrel, so this works for stuff in that range. And then next, at about the same exact hang loose length, we have the lever stick. And this one consists of a wedge stopper knot right here at the very top, and then right down here I have a little area that I just grooved out with my knife, and that just allows for a spot for my cordage to go to tie around. And then I have a piece of cordage right here, and this piece of cordage I made out of plant fibers from the inner bark of a tulip poplar tree. So there's a lot of different things in the area where you can make wild cordage from. And you can also use just cordage that you might have on hand, or if you found yourself in a situation, you know, you might have some spare shoelace or something if you don't know or don't have the ability to make cordage. And then, so that cordage attached to the lever stick at the very bottom of the lever stick, and then it goes and attaches to just a little toggle. So I just have a thin, you know, little chip of wood basically that cord attaches to, just like that. And as I set it up, how these all fit together will make a lot of sense. And then finally I have my bait stick, and unlike the figure 4 where it has a thicker bait stick that's more, you know, equivalent in size to the post and lever stick, the bait stick on the Paiute Deadfall is very skinny and long, and it's just basically a twig. And so right here at the very end I have my peanut butter, and again you can take your knife, rough up the end just so the nails of the rodent or whatnot can get caught in there. But I just kind of smeared a very small amount of peanut butter here on the end, and that's all it takes. So yeah, you just have a post stick, flathead, flat spot, then a lever stick with a wedge stopper knot, a little grooved out area to tie your string around, and then that string connecting to a little wood chip right here, and then your bait twig. And now I'll go ahead and set it up. So unlike the figure 4, the figure 4 is a pretty easy trap to set up. I mean, it can still be a little challenging from time to time if you don't have a lot of experience with it, but all in all, it's pretty easy to set up. The Paiute, it can get frustrating sometimes. So just be careful. You know, it is possible, and I have crushed my hand pretty good with these. So you just want to be aware. If you're worried about it, you can take a rock and put it under the area where you're working. So if the rock does fall, it kind of breaks the blow a little bit. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and set this up and show you how it goes. So basically, just like with the figure 4, you're taking your flathead of your post stick with the flat part facing the outside of your trap, and you just connect them in just like so. You pinch where they connect. Find a spot that feels balanced, like so. Take your little wood chip and give it a half wrap around that post stick. So it just connects, and it's just right there on that little flat spot, and that kind of just holds it in place. Then I'm going to take my bait stick and I'm bringing that in, and I'm just finding a small groove that naturally occurs on this rock right here. So I'm feeling a little area, a little natural groove right there, and so I'm just going to bring that to the toggle, because the toggle wants to flip out and go off. So there's a lot of tension to unwind this toggle and throw everything out. And so if I can take this bait stick, put it up on that notch, and then prevent that toggle from flipping out, that will set my trap, just like so. And there it is. It's all ready to go, super sensitive. There's no offsetting or anything you need to do with this trap. It's extremely sensitive and ready to go just as is. So there it is. It's a good looking trap, and hopefully we'll have some success with this one. Alright, so I went ahead and I went out and I set up 4 traps all together. And that's not very many. I typically like to at least have 6, 7, 8 traps set out. But I figured, just given the hair trigger nature of the Paiute Deadfall and its effectiveness, that 4 is probably going to be sufficient. I have a pretty good feeling. I've spent some time in this area, and I know there's a lot of wildlife and a lot of game in this particular area, so I'm pretty confident we'll end up getting something. And the way I determined the trap placement was just based upon sitting down, observing, and paying attention to the area quietly and just taking note. If I see a squirrel running up and down a tree in a particular area, I set a trap over there. If I see a chipmunk running in and out of a log in a particular area, I set a trap over in that area. And that's basically the way I like to do my trapping in terms of placement, is just through observation of that particular area. If I find like maybe a pile of nut pieces on the top of a rock, that tells me that that's a feeding area for a particular squirrel, and that might be a good spot to set a trap as well. So yeah, it's just something you get a feel for over time. But yeah, I'm just going to leave this area, and I'm going to give it about 24 hours, and I'll return, and with any luck, we'll have some fresh bush meat and another 100% wild meal. So I'm super excited, and I can't wait to come back tomorrow and see if we've had any success. Okay, so I set my traps about 24 hours ago, and now I'm going to do my favorite part of the trapping process, and that's just doing my rounds, checking my traps, and seeing if I had any success. Alright, so first trap of the day, and got a squirrel. So already looking like a successful day. If this is all I get, I'll be satisfied with just this. Alright, so looks like we're successful here too. Nice. Oh wow, this is probably the heftiest chipmunk I've trapped. Nice. Okay, so I went ahead and checked my other 2 traps, and unfortunately they did not catch anything. That being said, I'm pretty happy. Out of the 4 traps I set, 2 of them were successful, and I got a good-sized squirrel and a good-sized chipmunk. And if this was a real survival situation, or I was actually trying to do long-term living out in the nature, if I had this every day, I would probably be doing all right for a long period of time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skin these up. I think I might just eat the squirrel today and save that chipmunk and eat it on another day. But yeah, all in all, good day of trapping. Alright, so I went ahead, I got my squirrel all skinned up and gutted out. I went ahead and I just did that on my own. I didn't film any of it. I figured I'd spare you from having to see that. But if you're interested, there's plenty of stuff online to learn how to do that. It's a good skill to know how to do and to learn. And once you know how to skin a small game, like a squirrel, those same principles apply as you get to bigger and bigger animals. So I encourage you to look into that on your own when you have a chance. But kind of like in the last trapping video, I don't want to just cook this up and just eat a squirrel. I want to make a full meal out of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what I got just right over back here in terms of wild edibles that I can throw in and add into the meal to spice things up a little bit. Alright, so here's one plant I'm gonna add into my meal. This is probably my all-time favorite green. This is a nettle plant, and you've probably seen it before if you've ever brushed up against a plant and gotten what feels like a lot of little stings. That's this stinging nettle right here. And it's an amazing plant. It is high in several different vitamins, B, A, and C. It also has a lot of different minerals in it, so it's high in magnesium, calcium, and zinc. And then on top of that, it is used to treat several different kinds of prostate problems in certain ways, and it also is used as a potent anti-inflammatory. And a lot of people with arthritis and stuff use this plant to help treat that. And the coolest thing of all about this plant is the protein level. It's probably, as far as I know, the most nutritious green in the eastern woodlands, and the main reason is its protein content. It has anywhere from 25 to 45% of what it is made of is protein. So for a plant, that is phenomenal levels of protein. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and harvest a few of these leaves, and there's a bunch of them around in this area, so I'm just gonna get a bunch of that together and throw that in for my meal. The younger, smaller leaves tend to be the best, but the older ones are still good to eat as well. Okay, so here's another one of my favorite plants, and I'm going to incorporate this into my meal as well. This is referred to as garlic mustard, and it's as its name applies, a delicious plant tasting similar to garlic. Yeah, it's extremely nutritious, like nettle as well. It has high amounts of vitamin A and vitamin C. It also has trace minerals. On top of that, it's used medicinally for several different things. It's used to lower cholesterol, as well as prevent several different kinds of cancers. So this is a great green to familiarize yourself with and to incorporate to your diet. And the best part really is just the garlicky, delicious flavor that this leaf has. But it's not only the leaf that's edible. I think actually the tastiest part of this plant is the root itself. And the root has a very pungent horseradish type flavor, and it's one of these wild foods that you can harvest that's really gonna help add to the flavor and the spice of your food, because oftentimes that can be a struggle when you're eating just solely 100% wild meals. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick a few of these leaves and get a few of these roots as well and throw that into a little stew. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and get my greens on, get those cooking. I got both my nettles and my garlic mustard in here. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water to that. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get that cooking. Just like so, and while that's going, I'm going to go ahead and skewer up my squirrel and get going on that. Okay, so I went ahead and I made a little skewer for my squirrel. And all I did was I took a branch, a live branch off a tree. I split it with my knife, but I didn't split it all the way to the end. Just stabbed right through it here and cut down a little ways. Then I took 2 little twigs and just pushed them through it. And that should hold my squirrel pretty well. Alright, so there it is, and that's going to allow me to be able to flip it upside down while I'm cooking it and get all sides. Alright, let's get this puppy on the fire and get cooking. Okay, so here we have it. Some well done squirrel with some nettle greens and garlic mustard. A little root in there. Five-star if you ask me. Alright, gonna dig in. That's so good. No salt, no pepper, no oil, nothing. Just cooked squirrel. It tastes like steak. If you've never had squirrel, you gotta try it out. A lot more tasty than mice. Oh. Thank you, squirrel. Try out the greens here. Greens are nice, but the squirrel's really the star of the show here. Man, this is probably the oiliest, juiciest squirrel I have ever had. I don't know what it is about this squirrel, but it is... I mean, I've had a lot of squirrels in my day, but this is, for some reason, really hitting the spot. I mean, this is genuinely great. Alright, so there it is, everybody. Another 100% wild meal. wild trapped, primitively caught, primitively cooked meal, you know. I gotta say, although we have all kinds of spices and stuff that we can add into our food nowadays, and it's really easy, something about doing it all from scratch on your own, using your own wits, I honestly think, you know, that's the best spice of all. So, thank you all for joining, and I'll see you all next time.